Big old Dana White finally released UFC 311, and yo, it's a really stacked card. It's setting the bar really fucking high, to be honest, for the year of 2025, and usually January cards, as of late, have kind of been on the weaker side, but Dana and all them, they're going absolutely balls to the fucking wall. Amazing main, amazing co-main. People are saying it's one of the best main and co-main combos of all time. It's pretty fair, to be honest, but the Daggy takeover is absolutely real, alright? If it wasn't absolutely canon before, it is now, dude, but the card in general is amazing. The feature fight's great, the prelims are great, even some bangers on the early prelims as well, like top to bottom. It's fantastic. And we're going to be talking about a few of these matchups today, but mostly the main and the co-main, because obviously like the pay-per-view is going to fucking happen eventually. So we'll talk more like in-depth as the time comes, but definitely want to talk about a few of these fights, man, because again, the card is fucking insane and we finally got it. It took a while. So just getting into it, I want to start with the main event, I want to start with the co-main event, especially after the presser that we just saw yesterday, because dude, everybody's been talking about this main event for a long time, right? Because we've just been waiting for it to be announced. We all know Tsarukyan's been next, really ever since he beat Oliveira, and Makhachev beat Poirier. So we've been waiting on this fight. It finally is here. The co-main was a bigger shock to a lot of people. So I want to start by talking about that because I feel like it's a really intriguing matchup. It's the fight that all of us wanted to see. And like you guys see in the thumbnail, I mean, Merab beat the allegations. He really did. Everybody's saying that this guy was ducking. Everybody was calling him out, and everybody's saying fake champ. And some people saying some people think that the belt is fucking vacant. You know what I mean? So I gotta respect Merab for. I mean, I don't want to be like, oh, respect Merab for taking the fight because he is the champion. You're the champion. You gotta fight the next number one guys, and a lot of people feel like Umar is that guy. So, but I feel like the fact that he's taking it pre-Ramadan, he's kind of getting after it from September to January. Is it the fastest turnaround in the world? No, but you know what? It's a championship fight, and I get wanting to have a bit of time. So the fact that he's coming around, I get it, and I respect it, man. And like the stories of him just fucking barging into Dana's office because, hey Dana, I need this. I don't want rematch with Sean O'Malley no more. I need Umar now. The level of disrespect, like I would have loved to have been a fly in that room, bro, and saw what went down. All the veins are popping. We saw it at the press conference too. Like Merab is very emotionally invested in this fight. He said it's personal. You could tell it's personal for him. I mean, I don't even know what Umar really did besides like kind of getting, I don't want to even say an unjust title shot because I feel like this is the fight to make next and Umar should be next. I feel like I wanted to see him fight more competition, and I do think it's a bit unfair that a guy like Merab, I'm not trying to be that fucking guy, but the fact that Merab had to beat literally like three former champs before getting the title shot, and Umar had a really good win over Corey Sandhagen, who's elite, and it was a great performance. But I get the frustration from Merab's side, and I don't know if Umar said anything else, but I don't know why. I don't know why it's so deep for Merab, maybe because he had to go through a really tough road to get to the title. But either way, it's a really intriguing matchup, and I feel like the energy going into it right now, like Islam and Arman, they're not talking any shit, dude. All right, you saw Arman literally like giggling, little hee moment during the face-off. All right, we're not getting an ounce of shit talk from them. I know Islam knows how to talk shit, but this is where the heat of the card and the feature fight as well. We got Moicano on this card. We got some shit talkers. We got Kevin Holland though, so there's shit talkers on this card. I never thought that Merab would be the one headline. That whole vibe I just described. It still, man, the whole attitude from Merab for this fight has been really interesting. I think it's going to dictate a lot of things. Like I like his chances better. Merab, seeing how he's just actually like taking the fight, but also like when your emotions are this high, and I don't want to say like out of line, that's a really bad way to put it, but like the emotions are questionable whether they're going to help Merab perform better, train harder, be hungrier, or if they're going to, make him doubt himself or make him get a little too emotional, a little bite down the mouthpiece a little bit too fucking hard. You know what I mean? So the whole flare of emotions he has right now, it's either going to really help him or it's going to really kind of hurt him. So we're going to see. So let's talk about the actual matchup itself inside the cage. So the striking difference here is the big, I feel like, gap we're going to see skill set wise between these guys, because Merab, not only is he not a power puncher, that's fine if you're not a power puncher, he's a little bit of a pitter-patter puncher, and that's fucking A-okay, but the thing about Merab is that his striking is just clearly the weak point in his game, it's not even like it's the worst thing there is. It's not Ben Askren, built like a bag of milk. I mean, people are saying I look like Ben Askren. Get the fuck out of here with that, by the way, y'all, but still, it's not like Ben Askren striking, Merab is a champion for a reason, he's fought a lot of primarily strikers, so despite having the experience against strikers, that doesn't necessarily make his great, so it's been able to get him this far. But I think against a guy like Umar, who is just as good as grappling, if not, better than Merab, I just think the striking differential here, when you look at the grappling between these two, it's pretty close. You could argue that Merab's is better and he's able to just dominate and smother guys more. Or you could argue that Umar's is better. I feel like the grappling, you can kind of go back and forth. Matter of opinion, matter of which evidence you're finding, whatever the fuck. But the striking is clearly on the side of Umar. Merab just doesn't have the power, and he doesn't have the tenacity with it, or just the value volume to really kind of just like bust guys up. Like Petr Yan is a guy who's not the most powerful striker, but with the precision and the volume and him just going after you and looking better each round, like that's how Yan striking gets him really far, you know? Even though he's not like the hardest hitter. I mean, even then, Jan's a harder hitter than Merab, but I hope the point stands true. Like Umar's gonna piece up Merab on the feet, unfortunately. Or fortunately, depends how you look at this fight or who you're rooting for. But yeah, I feel like Umar is gonna be able to piece him up on the feet, maintain the distance, and dictate where the fight goes. And also be able to put on the volume and the pace, you know? Land some big shots. I know that Merab has been caught in the past. He does have a chin, but it's a solid chin. You know, I feel like it's been getting better. Like I feel like he really didn't get rocked too much in the fight against O'Malley. There was a moment or two, but still, I mean, against a lot of these opponents lately that a lot of people are saying like this is going to be the one to knock out Merab. He's, you know, he stood through against Yan, against Cejudo, against O'Malley, and more. You know, like these are guys who could have taken his lights out, but they didn't. So I think Merab's chin will be able to hold him through, you know, even though I think Umar is going to be able to fuck him up on the feet and the striking. Just overload him, not even in just terms of power, but also in volume. Like I'm saying, I don't think Merab is that easy to just kind of be taken out of there. But I could maybe see a TKO. But if I'm going to see anything, I'm going to see just kind of like a 49-46 decision from Umar Nurmagomedov. I think the only really like big advantages that Merab has in this fight is the experience level with championship-worthy competition, or you could argue just really even experience in general. And also just the cardio. I know that Umar has good cardio as well, and we've seen it. We saw him go 5 rounds with Corey Sandhagen. And the 5th round was one of Umar's best rounds, you know? So cardio is not an issue for Umar, but I just think with Merab, and you know what? O'Malley won that 5th round against Merab. So there's an argument there that Merab's cardio, maybe it's not as great as people think. But the thing is, I just think if there's any two advantages for Merab going in this fight that are very distinctly on his fucking side, I think it's the cardio, and I think it's the championship-worthy competition that he has fought. So Umar, though, Umar has the better striking. Umar has comparable grappling, if not better, and Umar has good cardio himself. He's able to completely dictate where the fight goes, and I think that's what's going to happen here, but it's just not going to be as easy because Merab is very elite. And in terms of Merab, I mean, I think the things that usually work for him in fights, the factors that usually work, the advantages he has, I just don't think it's not going to work as well against a guy like Umar. Like, he's not going to really out cardio Umar to great degrees, you know, be able to just drown him in there. He's not going to be able to just spam the takedowns and hold him down for long periods of time or really even get most of the takedowns, you know? So these usual things that work from Merab, I don't think they're going to work against a guy like Umar. Umar also is riding high in the confidence. It's questionable if Merab is. I just guess we're gonna have to see. We got one of the best bantamweights of all time in Merab Dvalishvili, you know, against the big bad Nurmagomedov name. If Merab wins this, I really do think he's gonna be the bantamweight GOAT. In my opinion, I don't even know who the bantamweight GOAT is right now. There's an argument for Yan, Cruz, Sterling, Merab himself. So I think he's beaten so many champions already, 4 in total, former of them. So if he beats Umar, his biggest test right now, I mean, he already beat Yan, who's next in the belt, on deck for the belt. So it's just, I think Merab would be the bantamweight GOAT after this. He'd be pretty undeniable. And if Umar wins, I think it'd also be good for the division as well, because bantamweight, as we all know, is so fucking stacked. So to have like the name value in Nurmagomedov up there, and to also just have fresh matchups in the division. Like, you know, if Merab wins, we're going to see him fight Yan again, which would be interesting, and I feel like a lot of us are going to be invested, but it's not the biggest draw just because we've seen it once and it was a 50-45. You know what I mean? It's like the whole Topuria Volk thing. Like, it's hard to get a rematch going in terms of like the hype and the draws when the first one was kind of just like a sellout in some kind of regard. You know what I mean? So yeah, Umar wins. There's definitely going to be some more fresh matchups in the division, and if Merab wins, then damn, he's completely undeniable. You could argue he already is right now, but we'll see after this matchup. You know, I mean, Merab is a pretty solid underdog, and I'm going to be going with Umar on this one via maybe like a 4th round TKO or a 49-46 decision. Up next, we're going to be talking about the actual main event itself, Makhachev versus Tsarukyan 2. This fight, it's crazy that it's even a rematch because it really doesn't even feel like one. So much has happened in these guys' individual careers since the actual first fight. So I'm going to be going with Islam on this one, though still. I think if Islam wins, man, I think he's going to be the lightweight GOAT. You could already say that Makhachev already is the lightweight GOAT, and I think that's a totally fair take. It's really valid. I think it's definitely close, but I just think that Islam needs that next step, that next big win, you know, another win at lightweight, because people, you know, I think a lot of people dispute like the Volk wins and kind of try and like diminish them. I think they're great wins, but I do just think he needs one more. He needs to break that lightweight title defense record, get up to 4. He's going to tie Anderson Silva's winning streak, I believe, after this too. So Makhachev not only is going to move up on just the overall GOAT list, but just in terms of the lightweight GOAT, I mean, he's racking up some amazing wins. Even in the build-up, I feel like we're starting to appreciate the wins that he's getting, or sorry, the wins that he was getting, because on the way up, I mean, a lot of people people were shitting on this guy, being like, what the fuck is this? Like, these random ass fights or these opportunities are overhyped as hell. But I feel like ever since he's winning the belt, I mean, he's putting on a lot of amazing finishes, a lot of amazing performances. He's showing how much his skill set is improving, and he's so well rounded. And I think in terms of comparing him and Khabib, skill set to skill set, I do think that Islam is the more well rounded fighter. I think he has more in his arsenal, more defined skill set. But I think that Khabib was more of a dominant fighter. That's why I personally think Khabib is still right now the lightweight GOAT. But if Islam wins, man, I mean, beating Tsarukyan and all the other guys that he's beaten, whether with the belt or without the belt, it's absolutely insane. In this matchup, Arman is definitely Islam's biggest threat at lightweight for sure right now. You know, you got guys like Topuria, and that's an insane question mark fight that maybe we'll get in 25 or 26, you know what I mean? And also at welterweight, there's intriguing matchups like what about Shavkat or JDM? I know he's never going to fight Belal, but these guys are really similar, Islam Makhachev and Arman Tsarukyan, in terms of their strengths and in terms of their skill sets. But Makhachev, the difference I should say is that Makhachev is one of the greatest fighters of all time. Who knows, man? Tsarukyan, I mean, I feel like he's going to be... I mean, seeing the performance against Charles Oliveira, yeah, it was a close fight, and some people thought that Charles Oliveira won, which I thought was a bit crazy. As a big Charles Oliveira fan, I still thought that Arman won that one 2-1, but still, if you're beating Charles Oliveira, I mean, I think you're beating everybody else in the division, you know what I mean? So I think right now, in terms of just the skill set, I think Makhachev, Tsarukyan, and Oliveira are in their own bubble right now at lightweight, but we're just in Makhachev's era right now. You know, that's the thing. Like, Tsarukyan has good striking. He has good grappling offensively and defensively. He has good cardio. He's been building up a lot of experience, adding good names to the resume. But the thing is, he's fighting Islam Makhachev. You know, as many problems that Tsarukyan presents to Makhachev, and as similar as kind of their skill sets can be in a lot of regards, I just think that Islam still edges out Tsarukyan in a lot of these advantages and a lot of these gaps. And also, you got to consider the championship experience that Islam has been developing. I mean, I get that there's a lot of pressure and there's this whole bizarre curse going on with the Anderson Silva tying of the streak for the most wins in a row. And I get that curse can be fucking scary. The curses in MMA in general can be a little bit rough when you're picking fights, but still, man. Tsarukyan can get caught in dangerous exchanges on the ground. I mean, we saw Oliveira most recently kind of had him close in the third round of their fight. And it's just like, it is hard to catch Tsarukyan, and we've seen him in kind of those close exchanges, but the thing is, most of the time he does prevail. He's a very well-rounded fighter. He does have power in those hands, but I don't think he's going to be able to rock a guy like Makhachev. Maybe, but I just think that if Makhachev can get through Poirier, and granted Poirier was outboxing him a bit, but granted if he can get through Poirier on the feet, and he can get through Oliveira on the ground, and he can get through a guy like Volk twice who's so well-rounded, I don't think Tsarukyan is going to be able to just do anything super outstanding against Makhachev right now. You know, he's healthy. He's hopefully stat-free this time. He's going to be looking to have a great 2025. I think he wanted to be more active this year, but just a bizarre situation at lightweight, the whole Arman trying to, the punch in the fucking fan thing and all that. So we've been waiting a while for this fight. I think Makhachev's going to fight like 2 or 3 times this year. Three times might be questionable, but it is January, so who fucking knows? Maybe a January, June, December thing. But I see a really big year for Islam Makhachev and a few fights left, you know what I mean? So I think he's going to get the better of Tsarukyan here. I see Makhachev displaying pretty much everything he's got and throwing everything in the motherfucking tool set. And I see a 49-46 decision here. I know that these guys are semi-big finishers, but I still think that we're just going to be in for like a 5-round war, Yeah, these guys are very elite, and I'm very excited for this fight, but I'm going to be going with Islam Makhachev by 49-46 decision. Moving on up next to a couple other fights on the main card. I'm only going to talk about this fight for a little bit because I did a whole video about it, and obviously it's not even January yet, so the time will come, but Jiri Prochazka versus Jamahal, this is a great fight. Like, this is the fight that is perfect to have as a featured bout on a stat card because it's a guaranteed banger. There's a high chances of going to a finish. They're both former champions. I just think that as dangerous as Jiri is, I think that Jiri is he's got a lot of power. He puts on a lot of volume. He throws a lot of adversity at guys. Like, he knows how to drown you and put the pressure on, and he has a really good chin. I know that after the second fight with Pereira, now it's going to be interesting to see how much the chin holds up, but still, I do think that Jiri is a very good fighter, offensively on the ground as well. I mean, who the fuck expected him to submit Glover fucking Teixeira, you know what I mean? So, defensively as well, Jiri does have holes in his game, especially in terms of the striking defense, and that's where I think that Hill is going to be able to catch him, because I think I could totally see Jiri getting the knockout win, piecing him up, and just drowning Hill, but I think that Hill is going to be able to catch Jiri when he leaves himself exposed, when he keeps the hands down a bit. I think that Prochazka is going to come forward like a madman, but I think in those madmen exchanges, Hill's gonna find the right shot because Hill's a powerful guy. I know it's easy to just shit on him and his skill set because a lot of people don't fuck with his personality, and that's fucking valid, you know what I mean? But still, people forget, man. But yeah, I'm gonna be going with Jamahal Hill by a knockout on this one. If you guys want to see a more full-length discussion about it, then check out this video right up here. But moving on up next to Kevin Holland versus Reiner to Ritter. We are back with goofball drunk man DDP style Reiner to fucking Ritter. Former double champ at one championship, man. I'm going to be going with Reiner to Ritter on this one. Kevin Holland is just, it's so hard to pick him. It's like a Derek Lewis vibe. You know, it's hard to predict his fights. It's hard to pick because you don't know which version of Kevin Holland you're going to get. How serious is he right now in this fight or at this point in his career? Obviously, he's active as ever. Always is, and you got to respect it. He's one of the most entertaining fighters on the roster, pound for motherfucking pound. And I'm a Kevin Holland fan, but the thing is, I don't want to see a Bellator guy come in and beat Holland, and now a one championship guy come in and beat Holland. And I do respect Holland for taking on genuinely everybody. I mean, he fucking fought Roman Dolidze right before this. Such a random ass matchup. Holland really does fight everybody from the elite to just the random, and I gotta respect him for that. But it's just hard to pick him because there's so much talent in terms of Holland and his skill set, and he's still a young fighter, you know? Holes in his game for sure, absolutely. But there's so much talent, but it's just, he doesn't have championship aspirations, you know? He's very open about it. He's just here to fuck around and find out, and while it's very respectable and entertaining, I just think that a lot of fans are starting to tilt their head a bit now. Like, all right, dude, is this starting to hurt his stock more than help it? Because now it's like you can't even pick this guy in a fight because you're wondering which version he's going to get. This guy is a parlay killer. Not in terms of he's going to go and get a crazy upset win and ruin someone else's parlay. Like, if you're going to put Holland in your parlay and you're confident in it, I wouldn't be. You know what I mean? Not even because of the skill. He's a good fucking fighter, you know? He has crisp striking and he actually has some decent power. He's good on the ground. But the thing about Kevin Holland is the inconsistency. I just can't pick him in this fight. I know that in terms of the striking defense from De Ritter, there's holes there, man. Like, he can get caught. GM3 of all fucking people was giving him problems on the feet, and I do think that Kevin Holland has better striking and power than a guy like GM3. All due respect to GM3, he's a vet, he's a grizzled vet, been in the game a long time, and I think that it was a really good win. The fact that he submitted GM3 third round or not, facing adversity or not, the fact that he submitted him was a really good win and debut, put himself on the map a bit. So RDR is developing a bit of hype around him right now, which I kind of fuck with. Some new blood in the middleweight division, but again, talking about middleweights, Kevin Holland is more so built for welterweight, man. Like, I don't like these matchups at middleweight for him. I think these guys are too big for him up there. Not that Holland's a small guy, but he's very fit for the welterweight build. You know what I mean? So seeing him take back-to-back fights at middleweight, it's just, I don't know if that's the right idea. He can get wins up there, don't get me wrong, but I just do think that RDR is a really big middleweight. He's like 6'4", just surprisingly really big build. I mean, he was kind of overlooking GM3 in their fight. It was wild. So I think as good as Holland is, I think he can crack, and I think he has good dynamic striking, solid grappling, but RDR is good on the ground as well. We're going to have to see how good, though, against like UFC competition, you know what I mean? And RDR has holes in his striking for sure, but I do think that he's going to be able to piece up Kevin Holland. I think that there's a lot of favorable matchups for RDR in the top 15 of like the middleweight division. But when it comes to like the top 5 or like certain fights, like maybe like an Anthony Hernandez, I think he's going to have a really rough time. But it's a Kevin Holland fight. So I think he's going to beat Holland maybe by like some kind of TKO, maybe on the ground, maybe a submission. I have no idea. But I'm going with RDR regardless. It's a good fight, but who the fuck knows? So moving on up next to Renato Moicano versus Beneil Dariush, man. I feel like a lot of people weren't expecting this one, but regardless, can't complain. It is a good fight, and it just kind of cements the card more as being stacked. It's a perfect fight to have on the main card. I'm going with Money Moicano, man. I mean, I'm a big Money Moicano guy. I'm a fan of his. Show me the fucking money, dude, you know? This is a good fight. And I'm going to say, though, it's not the one I was expecting. And I don't think a lot of us were expecting it. I think a lot of us thought Money Moicano versus Paddy Pimblitz, 100%. Like, I thought we all thought that the Paddy Pimblitz fight was going to be going down. But it's not. I think that Paddy Pimblitz fighting BSD next is what I'm hearing. I don't know how accurate that is, but Moicano himself came out and said that BSD versus Paddy is next, which is why he's fighting Dariush. Which, if that's true, I actually fuck with that matchmaking. BSD versus Paddy actually makes sense. It's a good matchup for both guys. Moicano Dariush makes sense. I think that all of us would have preferred, or most of us would have preferred Moicano versus Paddy, but I get wanting to build it up a bit more, especially if Moicano beats Paddy, you know? So Moicano moving up now officially in the top 10 for lightweight. and isn't moving down for this one. He's getting to fight number 9. I feel like he probably wouldn't have wanted to fight higher, maybe like a Dan Hooker or something, but like with Gamrot in there at 8 and Chandler at 7, you know, and Poirier, Gaethje, and Hooker, Holloway, Oliveira, they're all kind of doing their own thing. This is kind of the fight that was left, and I do think this is a really favorable matchup for Moicano. I mean, I know that old man Dariush, it's funny to fuck around and joke about it, but these guys are like the same age, I think, or at least relatively around the same one. But yeah, we got old man Dariush. He's back, dude. He didn't fight in 2024, and unfortunately, dude, I don't think that's gonna be helping him in this case. I'm pretty sure the last time he fought was his knockout loss to Arman Tsarukyan at like the end of 2023. So it's been a while for Beneil Dariush, man. I do think that Beneil Dariush is like a top 10 worthy fighter. Don't get me wrong. I think he's good. But I just think everybody overrated the fuck out of him a year or two ago, man. You know, I understand he had a good win streak going, and he is a solidly well-rounded fighter, you know. But when it comes to a lot of the matchups in the top 5 and the top 10, I just see Dariush coming short. You know, the win streak was impressive, don't get me wrong, from a couple years ago. Solid striking, good grappling, but I don't think his chin is the same anymore, you know? And we saw how Moicano was just piecing the fuck out of, what the fuck's his name, bro? Benoit Saint Denis. So I think if a guy like Dariush is getting hit with some of those shots, man, I think it could be dangerous for him. You know, I know even with the year off, I get, you know, you kind of want to heal up your chin a bit, and I think it's definitely going to help the time off in terms of the chin, but in terms of just the activity, the volume, being able to keep up in the cage, I think it's just going to hurt Dariush, the lack of activity. So I just think that Moicano is going to have most of the advantages here. He had an amazing 2024 and went like 3-0, 4-0. Sorry, it was 3-0, but like they were all good wins, a lot of big upsets, and Dariush didn't fight at all in that time. So it's going to be interesting to see. I think that Paddy's going to beat Benoit Saint Denis. I'm sorry if that's a hot take, but I think Paddy's going to beat him in March at the London card. I think Moicano's going to beat Dariush in January, and then Moicano and Paddy are probably going to fight maybe like International Fight Week, maybe sometime in the fall. I don't fucking know, but I think despite the shit that Dariush gets, I get that it's easy to kind of meme him a bit and fucking joke around, but dude, I really do think that he is a top 10 like worthy fighter. I just think that there's rough matchups for a man, especially now as prospects are coming up and he's getting older, and you know, it is what it is, man. I see Moicano by a ground and pound T.K.O. or like a 29-28 decision. Not the fight I was expecting, but a good fight regardless. But so that's going to be it for the main card of 311, and it's a really good one, man. It's fucking stacked. A few of the prelims here. The prelims are good as well, man. I mean, the Peyton Talbot fight, a perfect step up in competition. It makes perfect sense. Raoni Barcelos versus Peyton Talbot. Barcelos is a solid striker. He's a solid grappler, you know. He's been around the game for a while. I think it's like 7-4 in the UFC. So he's got experience, you know, and like I said, he's a pretty solid fighter, you know, kind of lingering outside the rankings. So it makes sense for Peyton Talbot. But Talbot is so fucking good, man. He's got good defensive grappling. He's got power. He's got crisp striking. He knows how to put in the volume. He's got a great personality. He fucks with Deftones, and he's got a bleach tattoo, man. So I'm rooting for Peyton Talbot. He's definitely one of my favorite prospects right now. So this matchup makes sense for him. I think he's going to go like 2-0, 3-0 next year. Probably fight once January, June, December, and probably be fighting for the rankings sometime end of the year. So it's going to be a big next year for Peyton Talbot. I like this matchup for him. He's going to get tested a bit. Johnny Walker versus Bogdan Guskov. Johnny Walker's still not going to heavyweight, man. I get it, because if you're getting fucking knocked out and chinned at light heavyweight, then heavyweight, these guys hit harder. But still, you got to look at it skill for skill-wise, man. Like, Johnny Walker could be Johnny Walker could beat Martin Tybura and Sergey Spivak and shit. You know what I mean? He could be a top 10 heavyweight. But these matchups at light heavyweight are just getting more and more dangerous for him. His chin seems to just be getting worse. He's the goofy goober knockout reel guy. You know what I mean? It's entertaining to it's entertaining to see a Johnny Walker fight. You can get excited for it, but Bogdan Guskov has power. He has good knockouts on his highlight reel. And I just see him chinning Johnny Walker, man, in like the first or second round. But it's still a good fight, but Johnny Walker needs to move up. Jalen Almeida versus Sergey Spivak. Not really super excited for this fight, but I do think it's a good one to make. Gets Almeida another name and kind of like can build himself back up. Hopefully can get a finish and some hype going, because I feel like just his past couple of fights, win or lose, have just been bringing down his stock a bit in terms of just the energy and getting hype for it. So Sergey Spivak, Almeida's probably going to be a big fucking favorite, so I could see him getting a good win here. Not really sure what Spivak is going to bring that's just going to be super dangerous for a guy like Jalen Almeida, you know. Almeida is quick, man. He's precise and he has elite grappling, at least for heavyweight status. You know what I mean? And then another one we got on the early prelims is Grant Dawson, dude. KG motherfucking D. I'm a Grant Dawson guy, man. I'm a fan of this guy, so I'm going to be rooting for him in this one. Diego Ferreira, man. I think that this is a pretty favorable matchup for Grant Dawson. You know, I do think that Ferreira can present some pretty big problems for him on the feet in terms of power, because who knows with Grant Dawson's chin, the whole Bobby Green thing, man, that was either a fluke or something fucking wild, or Grant Dawson really did just get cracked with either the perfect shot or maybe he just has a weak chin. Who knows? So we're going to be able to see him more. Ferreira's coming off of 2 knockout wins in his last 2 fights. Before that, though, it was 0-3. Little losing skid right there. So I don't know. I think that Ferreira has had some good wins on his resume, but I feel like a lot of them are from years ago. And I know that he's won his last 2 fights and is finally getting after it again, you know, being a little bit more active in fighting. This is going to be his second fight this year, which he hasn't fought twice since 2021 in a year, or fought twice in a year since 2021, you know what I mean? So I think Grant Dawson is going to be able to smother him on the ground. I know that Ferreira has some skills down there, you know what I mean? He is solid down there. Like really early on in his career, he was getting submissions, but I think pretty favorable matchup for Grant Dawson. So yeah, the prelims are fucking stacked, man. Overall, this is an amazing card, amazing main and co-main. I'm very excited for it. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below, what you think of the card. Who do you think is going to win some of these matchups? We're a month and a half out, you know? So I'm glad that this card got dropped. I know a lot of us were getting a little bit fucking impatient, kind of trying to wait for it and wanting to see what the matchups were going to be, especially just getting the main just announced, you know, make it canon. We all know what it's going to be, you know? So the card is great. It's going to set the bar really high for 2025, so we're going to see how it goes, but we got a lot to look forward to in that time. So thank you guys so very much for watching All the Smoke MMA. I appreciate y'all. We just hit 500 subs as well, so thank you guys so very much for that. But yeah, thank you guys so very much for giving me your time and making it this far in the video. So All the Smoke MMA, appreciate you guys, and have a good one.